What's up, everyone? I am Michelle Miller, and this is my second video. The first one was about me getting a real job, and that's been a while back. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And looking around at all the videos, I was still trying to find my place. I don't wear makeup very often, so makeup tutorials are out unless you want comedy, though that could be funny. And my kids are all grown. Most of the time, you don't even know I have kids. Look at my social media accounts because they hide from me if they see a camera. So all my funny stories are in the past, even though I'm sure that I could find some, but then they would be embarrassed and it would be a thing. So I was trying to think, okay, what can I do? I still suffer a little bit from imposter syndrome with writing, which I don't know why. I've been doing it for a very long time. But for some reason, I haven't gotten to the point where I feel that I can give advice on that, except for to keep writing. So one of the things that I've been doing recently is reading more. And a little background, I've basically stopped reading over the last 10 years. I maybe read 5 books, as sad as it is to say. And I was always that kid, and even up into my teens, I was always reading and would go to the library, came back with all these books. So it's been really fun. I set a challenge for myself, and then I found how much I missed it. I decided the one thing that I can do is book reviews. Now, one thing that you will not find is a lot of criticisms on any books that I read. And that is basically because I believe that reading is totally subjective. Whatever criticisms I have will probably be on a book that I liked, with the exception of something specific. And it is totally my opinion. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with it. It's just, for me as the reader, I did not particularly enjoy it for whatever reason. So that's a little bit of an overview of why I'm doing these, and let's just see what happens. On to my first book, and it is The Return by Jason Mott, and I'm hoping that's not backwards when I do this. It might be. So, things learned. I'll find out if not. But it was a complete me walking past it and being caught by the title. I had to come back and shoot a little extra on this because originally when I got this book, it was because I was walking through the library and I saw the title, and I remembered the television series promo that I thought looked kind of interesting, which I didn't have time to really look into. But I thought the promo was interesting of The Return. And so I picked it up just off the title, and I read inside the jacket, and it appeared to be the same storyline. So I went ahead and picked it up thinking, oh, I get to read it first. So, and turns out that the television series is not based on this book, but it still has somewhat of the same basic story, I guess. I guess that'll teach me to do my research before I film. But anyway, regardless of, I haven't watched the TV show yet, so I don't know anything about it. Regardless, I was pleasantly surprised with this book. So I really had no idea what I was getting into. I didn't know anything about the author. I didn't know anything about his writing style. I actually had not seen any reviews on the book. I just saw it and grabbed it. And I was blown away by it. It's written by Jason Mott, and I was absolutely blown away by his writing style. It was so good, at least from my standpoint. It flowed so well, and he wasn't overly descriptive, which is something I like. I don't mind description, but I get bored if every cup is described and every single color of wallpaper is described. I'm not a big fan on over description. So he does an amazing job at describing what needs to be described so that you have the picture in your head. All the characters were well built. I knew who he was talking about. I could see him in my head. Their dialogue fit. And so overall, it just sucked me in. It didn't take me very long to finish it. I laid it out on the kitchen table, and every time I walked by it, I wanted to pick it back up. So that is a big thing for me. If it catches my attention and keeps my attention, especially with everything going on. So I was completely impressed and am looking forward to reading more by him. It's also extremely character driven, which I absolutely love. That's probably why I don't read just one genre. I read a whole bunch of different genres, and that's because I really get invested in the characters. And if you can literally make me laugh out loud, you have me, and that happened a couple times with this book. So just to give you a brief overview of what the book is about, because I don't want to spoil anything. Harold and Lucille Hargrave's lives have been both joyful and sorrowful in the decades since their only son Jacob died tragically at his 8th birthday party in 1966. In their old age, they've settled comfortably into life without him, their words tempered through the grace of time, until one day Jacob mysteriously appears on their doorstep, flesh and blood, their sweet, precocious child, still 8 years old. All over the world, people's loved ones are returning from beyond. No one knows how or why this is happening, whether it's a miracle or a sign of the end. Not even Harold and Lucille can agree on whether the boy is real or a wondrous imitation. But one thing they know for sure, he's their son. As chaos erupts around the globe, the newly reunited Hargrave family finds itself at the center of a community on the brink of collapse, forced to navigate a mysterious new reality and a conflict that threatens to unravel the very meaning of what it is to be human. And to me, I think that was the biggest draw for me. We live in a world where death is permanent. So, I've lost loved ones. Very recently, my father passed away. We go through the grieving process and we figure out how to live without that person. And I think that, had to take a break. Sorry about that. That kind of came out of nowhere. But I think that the one thing that spoke to me was, what do you do if this loved one comes back? And not all the people who came back are children. There's different storylines in this book. And like I said, I don't want to spoil it for you, but there are different storylines in this book that, make you think about that. And I loved how he handled those different storylines, how the living characters, dealt with these situations. And I also love the commentary on fear and what happens when something happens that we don't understand. And this happens every day. It still happens. You can go back in history and you can find stories and historical events that are all based in fear, and where people react in a way that maybe they didn't or they wouldn't normally react. And on top of it, one of the things that I did like was Lucille's character and the change she had, that a lot of times we make our decisions on how we feel about something, and then we're faced with it, and we're faced with the truth behind it, a loved one or something that happened. And sometimes we change because, we might think we know what we believe, but sometimes something happens in our life that makes us make that change because of love normally, whether it's love of a friend or love of a spouse, love of a child. So anyway, this book, like I said, I was blown away by it, kept my attention through the whole thing. And I look forward to reading more from him. So, if you are looking for a new book to read, and it is sci-fi-ish, but it is not heavy on the sci-fi, it's more character driven, it's more about the story. And it's really something, you know, it's set in a way that it's something that could happen today. You know, you just don't know. So if you're looking for a new book to read, then pick it up. It's called The Return by Jason Mott, M-O-T-T. And I got it at our local library. So everybody have a good night, and that was my review.